Part 4, Chapter 15. Oh, it's on. After dragging the bodies to the cargo hold, the remaining crew of the Ghost are back on the bridge. Captain, I have regained control of the ship, Gabe reports over the ship's comms. All primary systems are now under our control, though many are not functioning at peak performance. Will looks at his station. The red blinking indicators from before are now happier, less blinky, green, while a few are still yellow. The display that shows a tactical view of the nearby space is online again, and showing the Ghost hurtling off into nothing. He grabs the controls. Great work, buddy. He brings the ship hard around back toward the salvage operation. We're going to need weapons and shields. You got that? Weapons are now available. I believe I can have shields online by the time we reach the engagement area. Will glances at Maxim, who shrugs. Anything we can do to help? He asks. No. The comm system beeps, closing the channel. He's still in a bad mood over the whole bot torture thing the other day? Bennie asks. Dude, could you be more insensitive? Will glowers at the Braylac hacker. I could try. Will shakes his head. Sometimes I wonder what's wrong with you. Bennie shrugs. The ladies don't seem to mind. Maxim makes a retching noise, but Will laughs. I needed that. All right, we'll be back in the engagement area in... He looks down at a display to his right, then looks to his left. 15 syntax. He begins adjusting the console to his preferred arrangement, muttering about Lorath touching his stuff. Maxim looks down at his own display. Enough time for a level 2 diagnostic, and to get my station reconfigured. That stupid Sylvan changed everything. Yeah, Lorath did a number on my station too. They were on the bridge, half a day? Mine is fine, Bennie offers, running his little green hand along the edge of the station. When he comes across something sticky, he picks at it briefly. That's because it's disgusting, and even gangsters and mercenaries have cleanliness standards, Maxim offers. Bennie flips Maxim off, then turns to Will. So what are we going to do? He gestures vaguely toward the direction of the cargo hold. We've got a hold full of bodies, and Follick's soul is still out there. His ship is easily a match for us, and then some. Hey, Will snaps. What? I don't want to die, Bennie says, spreading his hands. We nearly die all the time. We almost died just a few months ago aboard the Siege Perilous. Yeah. I was aboard the Ghost when those mechanical nightmares ripped their way into this ship. It wasn't fun. Or something I want to do again, especially so soon. Bennie is slightly paler green now, remembering. Will gets up and crosses to his diminutive friend. Hey, we always survive. He pats Bennie's shoulder. We've literally only been together, barely 2 cycles? Feels longer, Maxim offers. Plus, Gabe technically died on that monster dreadnought, Bennie points out. Will forces a smile. Well, yeah, but he got better. Bennie sighs and shoves Will away. Ah! Zephyr exhales loudly, her hand falling to her side. Cynthia rushes to catch her as she collapses, easing her to the deck. What happened? Water. The pale ex-peacekeeper croaks. Cynthia looks around. Oh, yeah, hold on. She lowers Zephyr to a sitting position, then rushes over to a small table the salvagers had set up with snacks and bottles of water. Handing Zephyr a bottle, she asks, What was that? What happened? You've been out for almost half a talk. Zephyr shakes her head slowly, then takes a long sip of the water. They're sentient. She gestures to the space they're in, the brain structure nearby. They feel pain, sadness, so much sadness. Grolak, Cynthia mutters. Xarrix swore they were nothing more than beasts of burden at best. What do we do now? It's already done, Zephyr says, handing the water to Cynthia and attempting to stand. We need to go. Gomto and the others aren't going to wait. Gomto? Cynthia hands Zephyr the water back when she's fully upright. Gomto. That's this creature's name. They name themselves when they reach maturity. This is a herd, a family unit. They have to hibernate every few thousand cycles for a few hundred cycles to replenish themselves. They absorb radiation from space. She starts her way to the opening they came from, waving her companion to follow. "Let's go." "Go where?" "We jettisoned the salvager ship we came in through," Cynthia reminds her, walking as fast as she can to keep up with the now energized Zephyr. "One of the other ships?" "Gomtu is, or will be forcing those ships off of him. Airlock. Will, can you pick us up?" "Oh, wonderful. Just us and our musty second-hand spacesuits surrounded by pissed-off living starships," Cynthia quips. Stampede. As the Ghost approaches the engagement area, a space roughly a few million kilometers in radius, where the behemoths had been sleeping, Will looks at the tactical display. What the hell is going on?" He nods toward the smaller display next to the main screen, which is showing a lot of unidentified yellow triangles moving erratically around the screen. "Oh man, you said there wasn't going to be another fleet battle," Bennie whines. "I hate fleet battles." "Dude, where would a fleet even come from? Weirdlow 3 doesn't have one. That's why we're here. No one else knows what's going on or would even care." Will looks up. "Computer, open channel to Zephyr." When the telltale beep is heard, he calls, "Hey ladies, we're back. Where are you?" The comms crackle with static. Zephyr's voice answers. "We're EVA. Gom2 and the others are stampeding." "Gom2?" Maxim asks. "Stampeding?" Will asks. "Long story, and one I'd rather tell from the safety of, inside the ship." A light on Will's controls blink on. "I've activated my beacon. Hurry up. These suits weren't meant to keep someone alive EVA this long." "And they smell," Cynthia hisses. "I see it, heading your way now." Will works the controls, moving the Ghost smoothly onto a course that will intercept Zephyr's beacon. You're right in the middle of the stampede, right?" "Golem 2 is having the others keep us safe. I think they'll make a path for you." "You think?" "Well, it wasn't exactly an easy conversation. I think I was able to express to him that the Ghost is a friend." The comms burst into static. "That, or he thinks the Butcher is friendly and you're not. I'm not really sure." "Lovely," Will says, bringing the Ghost under one of the now very active behemoths, narrowly avoiding it as it turns slightly toward the Ghost. Another of the living vessels makes an abrupt turn toward them, almost colliding with one of its own, while attempting to squish the smaller Uncaran craft between them. "Yeah, I think we know the answer to who they think is friendly. 2 Syntax out." "I'll go man the cargo doors. Scoop and move." Maxim is heading for the hatch leading off the bridge. "Almost certainly," Will says, without even looking at his big friend, his eyes not leaving his controls. "Bennie, sensors?" "On it," the small alien hacker replies, then, "Slave to my station. Drin." "Drin?" Will asks, as the hatch to the bridge closes behind Maxim. "The Butcher is making its way toward us, opposite side of the melee of monsters. The Berserker is too. The behemoths seem to be making a path for the Butcher." "Of course they are. Okay, priorities. Keep me posted on the Butcher. The Berserker is too slow to be an immediate threat. Plus, Gumshoe and its buddies think the battleship isn't friendly. So they'll do their part." He glances at the tactical display. "I hope." "I see them," Bennie points to the main display. There's a green circle on it. Zephyr and Cynthia, too small to see with the naked eye, are in the center of them. "Me too. Here we go." He adjusts his controls, then looks at the ceiling. "Get ready, Max." "Ready down here." "Butcher is 3 Syntax out and closing. They're almost full sublight, firing on any of the behemoths that get in their way," Bennie reports, tension making his ordinarily high-pitched voice that much higher. "Hopefully the big ship-shaped aliens will catch on that he's the baddie and not us," Will says, slowing the Ghost enough so that the women he's about to scoop up won't slam into the back of the cargo hold at thousands of meters per second. "Got them," Maxim shouts over the comms. "Bennie, you may need to take weapons for a minute," Will says, pushing the sublight engine throttle all the way forward. "On it! I'll light 'em up." "I'll settle for enough erratic fire to keep them off balance," Will says, swinging the ship wide, luring one of the smaller behemoths into a chase. "Guess Junior hasn't figured out who the good guys are yet." "Incoming comms," Bennie says, before pressing a button on his station, causing the telltale beep to come from the overhead speakers. It will be enjoyable to destroy you, Fullick's soul says. Will reaches for a control. Fuck off, Munchkin! He presses the control and the comms close. You said Munchkin was a term of endearment, Bennie shouts. Not in Kansas anymore. The ghost rocks violently as the bridge hatch opens. Zephyr, Cynthia, and Maxim lurch in, holding on to anything they can to keep from tumbling. About time. I've been doing all your jobs. Well, except you, Cynthia. You don't have a job, Bennie says. He slaps several controls on one of his consoles, releasing tactical and sensors back to Maxim and Zephyr's stations, which come back to life immediately. Cynthia bares her teeth, causing Bennie to turn back to his station. What can I do? The ship bucks, and sparks erupt from the junction box next to the hatch, so she moves to quickly extinguish the small flame that has flared up. Can you get on the horn to you and Z's new friend? It'd be awesome if they'd help some, or at least stop trying to crush us. Will pushes hard on the flight controls. Gotcha. On the tactical display, the icon of the ghost with a smaller behemoth right behind it swings around one of the largest living ships before turning hard to port. The young behemoth, unable to adjust as quickly, continues on right into the flight path of the butcher. Unfortunately for the probably juvenile behemoth, it gets blasted to pieces by the butcher. As it dodges around the now wreckage, Will wipes sweat from his forehead. It's like fighting in the middle of a herd of brontosauruses, dodging weapons fire and trying to not get stepped on. Nicely done, Maxim says, before letting loose two missiles that immediately hang tight U-turns in front of the ship and streak behind it towards the still off-balance, newer model Incarn ship. What's a brontosaur? Zephyr, I think it'll only speak to you, Cynthia says, one hand to her ear, where she's made use of the comm station headgear. It just keeps replying, not you, every time I make contact. None of the others seem to be interested in replying at all, or capable, I'm not sure which. Swap, Zephyr says, standing and rushing over to the station Cynthia is occupying. Keep an eye on the sensors. The feline woman makes a similar dash to the other station. On it. Will can hear Zephyr speaking into the headset. Swing to starboard, Cynthia shouts. Without questioning the order, Will does as she says, just as two smaller behemoths collide. Had he not moved, the ghost would have been right between them. He turns and nods once to her. The two smaller creatures separate, their skin ruptured, venting gases, but otherwise none the worse for the impact. The berserker is moving off, Cynthia warns. What? Will says, glancing at the tactical display. Oh shit, bet they didn't expect that. On the screen, a dozen or more of the massive space-dwelling living starships are ramming the gigantic battleship. 3 of the beasts are drifting away. Will isn't sure if they're dead or just injured. They're venting gases and various other substances, large holes riddling their sides. The massive battleships, while slow, is not lacking in guns and is cutting the attacking behemoths down at an alarming rate. The butcher is turning tail, Cynthia shouts. What the hell? They're moving into position with the captured ships. Looks like a defensive position, the Tigran woman reports. Zephyr looks at Will. Sorry, that took a long time. For what it's worth, they see the ghost as a friend now. Better late than never, I guess, Will says. There's more. He listens intently. They'd like us to accompany them to the place of forever, their term. Where is that? Maxim asks. Now? Will asks. Zephyr shrugs. Standing up, she nods to Cynthia. The two women quickly switch stations again. I think we're about to find out. Bennie points to the main screen. On it, the behemoths are nudging their dead and injured into position around the ghost. The healthiest of them move to form a loose sphere around the ghost and the fallen behemoths. What are they doing? Will asks, looking at Cynthia. The Tigran woman shrugs. Ask the ship whisperer. But Zephyr shrugs too. No idea. Talk to one of them, not an expert. She turns to look back at the main screen. Maxim gestures to the screen. Techo Bennie, I think we're about to find out. The behemoths, the healthier ones at least, are all glowing. Lines all along their hulls are lighting up like blue lightning. Ahead of the impromptu fleet, the stars begin to distort, and with a flash, they're clearly somewhere else. A wave of nausea washes over Will. The hell? Working on getting a fix on our location, Zephyr says, one hand raised to her mouth, her color slightly off. Will looks at Maxim. Threat board? Clear. It's just us and the behemoths. Not sure that counts as safe just yet, Will replies. Maxim shrugs. Zephyr looks at Will. We're nearly 2,000 light years from where we just were. No way. Will gets up and walks to her station. Looking over her shoulder, he swears. Holy crap. Can you hail your pal Gumshoe? Gumtoo, Zephyr corrects, as Will moves back to his station. She announces, Well, we're all invited aboard Gumtoo, too. She mimics an air quote gesture she's seen Will make. Witness the passing of their kin to the next realm. Oh good, funerals. Those are fun, Will sighs. Weirder and weirder. Is this? Will starts. His brain? Yeah, essentially, Zephyr says, as the crew of the Ghost enters the same chamber that Zephyr and Cynthia found earlier. Though it's in better shape than when we were here last. She looks around. The bodies of the salvagers are gone, as are the temporary bridge control consoles that were being wired into Gumtoo's core functions. The damage to the conduits around the room seems to have been repaired. Out of the corner of her eye, she spots 3 little yellow lights. Guys, she points. Great, tiny monsters living inside huge ones, Will says, resting his hand on his pulse pistol. A small being comes out of the shadows. The 3 yellow lights are its eyes. It's barely half a meter tall, bipedal, and metallic-looking, with a greenish tint to its outer casing. Droid of some type? Maxim asks. I am an avatar, it says, its voice deeper than Maxim's. I have been assembled to interact with you. It gestures with a hand that looks just like a Pelorian's, 3 fingers, 2 thumbs. Gumtoo is pleased you've come. Bennie walks over and taps the avatar's head. It's metal. My outer casing is the same material as Gumtoo's outer hull, the avatar replies. Neat, Bennie says. Can we keep it? Will sighs, ignoring his rude little friend. So what? We can speak to Gumtoo through you? Like an interpreter? The small construct nods. After a fashion. A more accurate interpretation would be that I am Gumtoo. He can hear and understand everything you say, anywhere aboard. Speaking to you, however, is much more difficult. The avatar gestures to Zephyr. As Zephyr discovered. The Pelorian woman shudders. Yeah, I don't think I want to do that again. No offense, Gumtoo, she adds, looking at the ceiling with a smile. The lighting in the room dims, then returns to normal. The avatar nods. Gumtoo feels the same. While it was beneficial at the time, it is taxing for the children to merge minds like that with lesser beings. Hence, the reason for my assembly. The children? Gabe asks. Lesser, Cynthia chuckles, looking at Zephyr. Assembled? Asks Bennie. Zephyr flips Cynthia off, then turns to Gabe. That's what they call themselves, the children of the expanse. They don't have any real concept of species or race. The small avatar nods, then turns towards a portion of the bulkhead that is blank, then abruptly isn't. A display screen 3 times larger than that of the Ghost's comes to life. On it, dozens of surviving children have nudged their dead into formation, sending them drifting deeper into the nebula. This is the place of forever, where the children bring their dead. No matter where the children travel, when one of theirs dies, it is brought here, to where their life started. Can the damaged ones be saved? Will asks, turning to look at the smaller avatar. They are being evaluated now. Normally, the answer would be yes, in all cases. The children are incredibly resilient. However, their rest cycle was interrupted, and none among them are at full power. If they were at full power, they could lend their energies to those in need. It spreads its tiny hands expansively. It is unlikely the more gravely wounded will survive. There is simply not enough energy among the unharmed to share. Gabe has been standing near the structure Zephyr indicated as Gomtu's brain. He turns now to the Avatar. You said this place is where the children were born. Where they constructed? Is there a facility somewhere in the nebula? The Avatar shakes its head. Yes and no. Several millennia ago, the first children awoke. It gestures to the screen. Here. They had no idea what they were, or what their purpose was. They simply were. For hundreds of cycles, they stayed here, mating, growing their numbers, observing. Eventually, their curiosity got to be too powerful. They ventured beyond the nebular gases, when their numbers were such that they felt safe in leaving the place of their creation. Cool, Bennie says in a hushed voice, watching the screen. The dead are being nudged deeper into the nebula, their bodies already beginning to fade and dissolve as they drift into the deeper regions. Further inside the nebula, there are elements that cause the bodies of the dead to dissolve back into the nebular material, replenishing it. The Avatar explains. When new children are born, those who have perished will help construct the new. So for thousands of years, these guys just wander around deep space like a pod of giant space sperm whales, then eventually get tired and take a long-ass nap, Will asks. The Avatar tilts its head to one side and stares at Will, its three eyes unblinking. No. Well, not entirely. Will looks at Zephyr, who shrugs. The children encountered a race called the Tindine. They were a kind race, deeply curious. They had limited space travel of their own when the children entered their solar system. The children, also curious, studied the worlds of the Tindine star system until the two were able to communicate with each other. The Avatar pauses. It did not take long for the children in the Tindine to realize they shared a deep mutual love of exploration. The two species became partners, for the Tindine had limited means of leaving their solar system. Their world was not rich in certain minerals and ores necessary for more advanced alloys. In exchange for passage aboard the children, they offered themselves as custodians and caretakers to help make internal repairs and keep the children healthy. Even though each child creates small helper units, having living beings aboard was rewarding. The small construct rests a hand on its chest. I am modeled after the Tindine. Each child took as many Tindine as possible aboard, and the herd resumed its slow exploration of the cosmos. Bennie, who has now become very interested in the story and has turned his full attention to the Avatar, asks, So what happened? To the Tindine, I mean. They're clearly not here. Are they aboard other children? Did they go back home? The Avatar gives a sad shake of its head. The Tindine fell to a virus they encountered on a world nearly 5,000 light-years from here. They worked tirelessly to find a cure, visiting thousands of worlds and species, but were ultimately unsuccessful. The last Tindine passed over 1,000 cycles ago. I'm so sorry, Gomtu, Zephyr says, resting her hand on the bulkhead. The lights in the room dim briefly. Will looks around, then offers, I may have a way to help the injured children.